Hey, this is Jack Downs with a brief video about what you missed in JOU127, Speaking and Writing for Professionals, on Thursday, September 15th. And let me just tell you that, of course, a good chunk of the day was taken up with presentations. We did the quotation presentations today. So if you missed class, obviously you weren't able to do that. And that I will also tell you that we don't have a presentation due next week, which means that there aren't any scheduled practice times next week. But yet, of course, I do want you to do the quotation presentation, which, as you know from my earlier descriptions, or if you're in class for the earlier descriptions or for the examples, it's very small scale, very easy to do. Simply who said it, who they are, and then the quotation. So I'd love for you to do that as soon as you return to class, perhaps on Tuesday. But to do that, you have to still practice. So you need to make arrangements for the practice, whatever day it should be, on your own, because I need you to do it, make this up, hopefully on Tuesday or at the latest on Thursday. So you have a list of the TAs. I would suggest you reach out to them and make some appointment for practice, perhaps on Monday, assuming you're back in class then. Then you could do the presentation on Tuesday. Okay, so we did that, the presentations, and we had a makeup presentation of a collage presentation. And makeup presentations we try to do as quickly as we can when we keep going. I mean, as close to the original presentation as possible. And actually, we had a fire drill at the very beginning too, but that just disrupted a few minutes of class. Then afterwards, after the presentations, I introduced the next presentation. The next presentation is going to be what we call the etymology or name presentation. Etymology means the study of the meaning of words and/or the origin of words, and it's going to be about your name, and you're going to present. It's going to be a 3-minute presentation. So similar in length to the collage presentation, but it's going to be a little different. It's going to require 2 different kinds of research. And I'm going to explain that in some detail now. But just be it known that that presentation will be given a week from today. So that means next week, there's no presentation, but the following week, there's a presentation on Thursday. That means there'll be the normal practice kind of times on Tuesday and Wednesday of that week for the presentation on Thursday. Something else is different, I'll just mention it briefly now, is this presentation you will be using index cards. Now, I have index cards in the classroom up by the teaching station. I'll try to remember to use index cards. If I don't, please come up and get them from me next week in class. I give everybody 4 to start with. We'll probably give you a few more. You'll end up with lots of them. Just be it known as that since I have the index card right here, I just want to show you that although the index card has lines on it, we generally don't use the line side. In fact, when you hold it up like this, and you want to hold it so that you've written your notes on the blank side vertically. The idea is that it's less width, which is better for an outline kind of format, which is what you do. You don't write your whole presentation on here. You occasionally might write a full sentence. That should be rare. A full sentence might be used for instance, if you want to capture direct quotation to make sure you say the exact words that they used, then you would break down the full sentence. You might do the first sentence to get you started on the introduction, and you might do the first sentence to start the conclusion. Those are particular ways you want to start those things. Otherwise, it's going to be think about an outline, think about things that are going to move your memory to what you're supposed to be talking about, and other notes about how to give the presentation, like might put pause or smile or so on. And you will use probably 3 or 4 cards for this coming presentation. Maybe even 5 at the most, but probably not, maybe only 3. So you've got index cards. That's different. Now let me share my screen. And before I continue more about that, since I'm starting my screen share, I'm going to briefly mention the schedule. And here we go. So here's a schedule, and this was the day was the 15th. Here we are. and make that a lot bigger. Okay, that's the wrong class. I'm sorry about that. Let me go back to my dashboard and bring up 127. I should have prepared that better. And here's the September, there we go, 15th. Okay, good. Yes, we did the quotation. And I did mention that I asked the study guide 1, which you should be working on regularly, is due Tuesday, September 27th. So that's like a week and a half away. That you're going to hand it on paper, all filled out. And to nearly finish that now, I've asked you to read chapter 6. So please work on wrapping up that presentation. Some things were handouts too. And then it says work on your etymology or name presentation. Will be presented in 2 weeks. You can look at that in the schedule. Do also note that the advisor interview is coming up soon. The advisor interview is due on the 22nd, Thursday the 22nd. Now that is not a presentation, remember. The advisor interview is just on paper, you've written up the questions and the answers you got, including 2 direct quotations from your interview. And do remember that you were supposed to ask them to give me feedback on your interview. They can just send me an email about how you did and confirming that you talked to them. On the other hand, I gave you a form that you could give them to fill out and send to me in the campus mail. One way or another, they need to contact me to tell me that you did it and so on. Okay, let's look at something else. So this is the handout, which I will include in the email that I sent to you. And let's just make that a little bigger. So let's first start talking about some of the research you need to do soon, and that will give us a feeling for the presentation. So imagine that you have 3 main ideas in this presentation. This is new because so far you've had a presentation that had an introduction, a conclusion, and kind of like there were main ideas, but we didn't talk about really breaking them out. Now you're really breaking them out. The first main idea will be, what is the meaning of your name? And how are you going to find this out? Well, it's going to require research. Yes, you could find books in the library about meanings of names, and if you do that, that is fine. You probably, I'm guessing, will just Google histories of names, information about names. There's many sources. There's, for instance, one example is given here is behindthename.com, and there's many others. So I want you to research and report the information of at least 2 sources about your name. This is probably your first name. About what is the historic meaning of your name? Where does your name come from? What words is it related to? What is the meaning of your name? Names carry different meanings in different religions and cultures and so on. So get some broad background about it. And you're looking for interesting facts about your name, but you're not just going to say the information. For instance, about my name, I could say that, as is mentioned here, Jack, the name Jack began as a medieval nickname for John. It is now more often an independent name. Sure, that's good information, but how do you believe me? Do you know? Well, I will be more credible if I give you the source. I could say, according to behindthename.com, then I could tell you. But I'd be even more credible if I gave you the source with 2 pieces of other information, credentials about the information. My example only has 1, but I probably should have 2 here. So I want you to give a source with the information. And once you give the source, you might give multiple pieces of information from that source. Source of the information, where you got it from, the name of the website. I want you to give something else about that, like the author, maybe any awards that they won or anything that shows where they come from, like a university or something. When it was dated, so how current it is or not. Some other information about that source that you got. And then the information that you're talking about. So this is, it's not just research, but when you do the research, you keep that source with it and gather some more information about the source. 2 additional bits of information about the source to qualify it. And here's some examples of some of them too. Here's examples of way that 2 sources might be referred to. You can look through those. And when you do use a web source, use the name of the website, not the HTTPS:// so on. you would say instead the Downs family name page at wikitree.com. So that's main idea number one. But I also I do want you to consider how the meaning of your name does or doesn't place you in a community, a tradition, a culture, an ethnic group, a racial group, an identity, any of those things. All right, so you have broad information about the history and possible meanings of the name, and then probably narrowing it to, does it help to designate you as part of some group, or is it that in that way significant to your identity of some kind? Okay, so the second main idea is going to be also require research, but a different kind of research. It's an interview, probably with family members, about why they selected or how they selected your name, the story behind how you got your name. Talk to parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, whoever is appropriate. You ask about them to document ways in which your name connects to a community, a culture, or a tradition, or maybe it doesn't. The story about how they picked your name, maybe other names that they might have given you. Now you're probably going to talk to these people on the phone or on Zoom or something. You should arrange this pretty soon. You should actually take notes. And when you speak this main idea, you're going to tell us about who the source is. All right. And actually, it says here, you must submit a typed question and answer transcript of this interview on presentation day. So it's, again, a transcript of the interview. So I want you to, that's a piece of paperwork in addition to your rubric. Now we have additional paperwork that you're going to hand in. And you credit those sources. And then the third main idea is going to be how do you feel about your name? Does it accurately reflect you? Do you feel like it matches you well? Maybe you would choose some other name instead. What might be some options B? Perhaps you already use a different name than the original name you're given. Does it place you in, does your name, when you reflect on it, place you in some ethnic, racial, cultural tradition? Is this important to you or not? This is personal reflection on your name, in other words. So there's no research necessary here. So you complete the research and also do some personal reflection. You start to make some notes and so on. And then maybe you want to think about your introduction and your conclusion. Because of course this is a more highly structured presentation. Your introduction is going to have three probably steps within it, two. First, I want to have at least 2 attention-getting devices. So you're not just going to start with some cliched beginning and say, oh, hey, my name is so-and-so. No, you're not going to say that. You're going to find some interesting, creative way to start. It might be a quotation, perhaps some quotation that mentions your name or is important to you and your name somehow. A rhetorical question you don't expect to be answered, but applies to your name. Some other illustrative story, maybe a little story, like a little anecdote about something that happened to you that relates to your name. You could try a visual aid of some kind. I'm not sure that would be with your name, but it's possible. You could use humor, you could use suspense, you could use a startling statement, something surprising about your name, something that will surprise us. Then you're going to build from these attention-getting devices, 2 of them, to what your name is. You're going to tell us that, so you actually know it. And then we're going to have a signposted preview statement. What does that mean? It means you're literally going to tell us 1, 2, 3, the main ideas that are coming up. This is that idea of telling us what you're going to tell us. All right, get attention, build to the topic, and now tell us what you're going to tell us. You're going to say, literally, and you may literally count them off. First, we will talk about the history of my name and the research I found about what my name means in different cultures. Next, we will talk about, we will discuss the story behind how I got my name and my family's memories about it. Finally, I will reflect on my name and how it does or doesn't fit me and what I personally think about my name. Pause. So let's begin with main idea number 1. Then you know number 1, you go through it in a lot more detail. Main idea number 2, main idea number 3. All these using your index cards. You may have an index card for each separate main idea, or they may have 2 of them on an index card. Remember, it's really just blurbs here. And in the case of the sources, though, you might write those things out, what the source is, and then that other detailed information, so you can get that too. Okay, so you're going to then do the main ideas, and then you will go down to that's the body, is the main ideas, and then the conclusion is how you end it, right? And I think the conclusion is something that, in the case of the earlier presentation, your collage presentation, it probably did not get that much attention, and I want you to get a little more attention now. Sometimes we get to the end, we just kind of fall apart, but we're relieved to get to the end. However, please try to build something here. What do? You don't do a cliche ending like the notes that are here on the screen and on the handout you will get. You're going to signal that you're ending, usually by wrapping around to the beginning again, mentioning something that was in one of your attention-getting devices to say, now we're reaching the end. Before you do that, though, there'll be a pause. You pause after the introduction, you pause after the body before you begin the conclusion. Then you're going to, after you circle around, you're going to probably a little slower now in a different tone and in a different language, try to review the main points you hit. Again, something about each one. And then finally, you're going to have we hope, a clincher, we call it, or a kind of a drum roll, something, a strong last line. You're not just going to say, I'm done, or thank you. You have something that kind of wraps it up. It might be a quote, call it a quotation. It might be something else. Okay, so that's a big overview of this presentation. I'm also going to be sending you the rubric, which you can look through and see. It's going to be the same kind of idea. You'll want to pick up one of these in hard copy from me, though. You don't have to worry about the rubric right now, and you don't have to worry about the note cards right now, but you should begin very soon on the research and the interview research that you're going to do. All right, I'm going to stop that share and say, I guess that's about it from class. I will go over some of this material again in class as I reinforce the idea of this upcoming presentation. And also more about the note cards we'll go over in class too. So I hope to see you in class soon.